Welcome to the Temple of Tomes with your host, Indie Comics Jones. Today is June 17th, 2020. This is episode 26, and we've got a nice frigid 94 degrees outside again. Trying to change it up a little bit from the usual suffering that you hear me complain about here, about this heat in Texas. Yes. So those of you thinking about moving to Texas, you might want to consider the heat. It's on for about 5 straight months here, maybe even 6, if you really look at it closely. Much warmer than most of the rest of the country, except for Phoenix, I think. Phoenix is the only one's always boiling up. Anywho, we're going to take a look at FairLady. A comic came out in January of 2019, I believe. And it was put out by Image Comics. The author is Brian Shermer, and the artist is Claudia Balboni. And in this particular issue, it contains a complete story, and that was a big plus for a lot of the reviewers out there. I actually went and viewed the other reviews after I read this, just to see what they had to say. I'm not going to change there was nothing in any of them that would change my mind about this, but let me just give you a quick rundown. Pyramid Comics, based on 8 pages of this comic, they gave it a yes. Jeff Comic 813 gave it an 8 out of 10, so that's a yes. SGCTell&Show gave it a yes. Super Silly Sarah gave it a yes, and Hoodoo TV also gave it a yes. So some outstanding comments on there. I am going to give it a no, and we'll go into that in a little bit. I guess I just didn't get it as much as they did, but I'll go into it. I read it actually 2 times, and I perused it. After that, skimmed through it 3 times, trying to figure out where the clues were that I was missing, if there were any clues. And to me, there wasn't. Okay, the protagonist is named Jenner Falls, and she was pitched to Image by Brian Shermer as kind of a gender swap on the Magnum PI. And I just want to mention, in this comic, she's nothing like Magnum PI at all. The world isn't, she isn't, her personality isn't, nothing. In fact, I felt her to be kind of like an unlikable character in this, and we'll go into that as well. So basically, it is set in a fantasy world, and she's sporting seems like very popular shaved side of the head, and she acts like a man most of the time. She's also in with Jesu, as they call it, is a cat creature, and you'll find out that there's mixed races and mixed species all getting together here. The 2 items in the back are just what they ride on. So let's get into it a little bit more. I'm going to talk about the world building and whatnot. Basically, they are former soldiers from a war that pretty much destroyed everything, so there's no need for an army any longer. They do have constables. They do have, let me go back on this one. And they also have private detectives that they call Fairmen. Well, she was a woman. She snuck her way into the army as a man. I'm not sure how she did it. If she just signed up electronically and they don't check credentials, because she definitely doesn't really look like a man. The narrow shoulders and narrow hips and whatnot. But they supposedly took her as a man, and when it came time to get an occupation after the war, she signed up as a fair lady, the first of her kind. And so she's basically a private detective. She also is in charge of a tower that holds a wizard, and she keeps track of the security for there, but she's never hardly there, so I'm not sure what kind of job she's doing. And we'll take a look at some things within the comic. Basically starts out with this page here, which is a upcoming scene in the comic. Now, the thing about this, and it kind of bothered me, this exact same page appears later on in the comic, and it's supposed to be this big startling revelation. However, you could have this page and the other page out of here, and it would not make one difference to the story. It's basically a you're not welcome here, and then an insult, and then a punch. And it has nothing to do with carrying the story on at all. So anyway, all we really find out is the cat creature does not like to be called a feline. So nothing big there. Now, what got me excited about this comic, I really wanted to like it a lot. This is called The Case of the Blue Rock, by the way. Was they took a look at this. This was kind of cool. And what this is here is some kind of huge, gigantic, it's either a robot or it's an armor, maybe for a giant, or maybe it was a mech with a little guy operating the whole thing inside. They never describe what it is, and kind of sad about that because I thought that was really interesting. But you can see it's pretty high tech, and within the remains they have built a village, and different parts of the village are on different limbs and whatnot. And there's also some side villages out here and over here and out in the distance too. So it's not really described where things are, unfortunately. It would be nice because at the end of the book, they actually redo the map again. There's that page again. It's not really that. But they actually point out certain locations that the protagonist goes to. And that would have been very helpful because you're trying to figure out in your mind where they're going exactly. And you have no idea. Kind of just trying to map it out in your mind. It doesn't really work. The other thing about this is like a metal creature, very high tech. Everything you see in here is made out of wood, adobe, brick, stone, and a little bits of metal like chain and gears, and that's about it. But nothing as high tech as we're seeing here. So that was disappointing too, because you're trying to figure out why they would build in here. Is it for shelter, or is it to make a fort? Is it to shelter from the elements? And they don't really go into that at all. Or if there was something that they were using out of the body of the robot, but nothing. I'm going to call it a robot. I don't know what it is. And they give you the populations, about 10,000 people that live in this whole general area here. So Jenner, who's supposed to be a gender swap of Magnum PI, and if you understand, I think it's kind of, the author's trying to be kind of clever. He's using Jenner like Bruce Jenner and Caitlyn Jenner. A gender swap came out like 2019, like I said. So I didn't particularly find that very clever, so to speak. So they are hired by a merchant to find a missing woman. The woman is a bookkeeper named Samanda Masilis. So they go to her house, and there's other people rummaging through her things here. And this is one of the things I don't like about her. She's very, she's not friendly at all like a Magnum PI would be. In fact, when she has subdued somebody that kind of like half-heartedly attacked her, not really, she actually goes ahead and breaks his arm. And I thought that was a little over the top, but she does that. She picks up some clues there, and there's like these little pieces of parchment that are part of the narrative as well, and you assume it's from the missing person. And there are things that she finds within the house. There's a ledger. She's a bookkeeper, remember. There's a ledger, a journal, and if you know accounting, accountants use ledgers and journals. And there's personal correspondence, stationery, and there's some bad poetry, as she puts it, also kind of scattered about the room, along with some other items. Now, reading these pieces of parchment, you don't know what they are. You don't know if they're the journal. You don't know if they're letters. You don't know if they're stationery. You don't know if it's the bad poetry. It's just little phrases and snippets of words sometimes. So it's not really helpful to the clue of the whole thing that's going on. It just sounds like someone that's very unhappy and is lonely and sad and the war's going on. So she goes to the merchant, back to the merchant, says, I haven't really found anything, but there's someone else looking, searching for it, and he just throws more money at her to get scram and just find whatever. So they go to the next place. They somehow she had signaled to the cat fella who didn't go into the house with her to go and follow the other guys back, the ones that she broke the arm with, and they figure out it goes not to the merchant. Oh, the other thing I want to mention now, the artist in here, this is the merchant. I mean, what's he selling? He just looks like Laundry Day. It's nothing in there. But he's the big merchant. And just like that, we go to the kind of like the city banker, and he's kind of underground there. And you think he has a lot of money, he loans out. He's kind of like a loan shark. But he's got like nothing in his house. It's pretty barren. You'd think that for someone like this, it would be better. He'd have more furniture and stuff, but it's just barren. So he must not be doing too well. But he's looking for this woman too, because the merchant thinks she embezzled from him, and this guy gave her a loan. Now he doesn't think she's going to pay it back. It's overdue. So she owes quite a bit of money. And the mystery goes on. They found a rock at her place. They asked some wizard that's, what it is. And like I said, there's no real humor other than the cat creature, and I think his name is Uanu. And so they continue to look for Samanda, I guess her name is, and they go ahead and keep on threatening other people to get information, and it continues, and we get to the scene where the guy's trying to keep him out, and they finally locate her, basically. But they never say what this place is, if it's a sanctuary, a monastery, a convent of some kind, a hotel, a resort, a brothel. You don't know, but look how she's dressed now. This is Samanda, and she's changed quite a bit from her. Let's see if I can find the other picture. Sorry. One more, I think. She's changed her look quite a bit. She's very, very young there, and this is kind of a current picture. I mean, it just happened the last few weeks or so, and now she's looking like this, showing a lot of skin. And here goes Jenner again, assaulting her. She rips off this kind of rock that might have some importance. I'm not sure if it has any importance or not. She rips it off, and then she punches her in the face. And most of these people have not assaulted these two, yet they're very aggressive. They take her out, and they take her to a village, but they don't say which village. There's only one village mentioned in here, and that's where they're from, this place called the Feld, which is based on this huge, giant robot skin. And they say that she's there. They're not going to call her by her name anymore, and she'll be safe. But there's only 10,000 residents, so it seems to me eventually she would show up. So anyway, there's a lot of holes in this. I'm unclear of, what village that was, or what happened to all that money that she supposedly embezzled and was loaned and just took off with. What was wrong with her? Who was she writing to on these little crib notes that you see throughout the thing? Was it a husband, a lover, a parents, child, a brother, or a sister? It's never mentioned. It's just all kind of left very unclear. So it was a very unsatisfying end to me, even though they say it's a complete story. Just to go in the numbers real quick, the first issue, they shipped about 14,000 copies. That was probably less than they hoped. The second issue really fell off. It was a month later. It went down to 8,000. The month after that, 6,000. And the month after that, 4,000. The month after that, 5,000, and then 4,000. Now I want to mention this issue 2 is a complete story as well. Issues 3, 4, and 5 are an arc, and that's the end of the arc there. So that's pretty much the wrap up on that. I cannot recommend this. It was to me, the author seemed to be working from an outline, and he didn't fill it in well enough, and the buildings lacked a lot of interest. There's no connection to the technology that's laying around them. It's almost like they moved into the area and they came out of caves or something and just moved into an area that people had vacated, but they were part of the war that had gone on there, so it can't be that. Anywho, this is about it. A non-recommendation on this. If you get it for free, maybe it's fun to look through, but I really didn't enjoy supposedly the hero, and I do have issues 2 through 5, and I'll be reviewing those later on. Hopefully those will pick up and be a little bit better, but for now, this is Indie Comics Jones from the Temple of Tomes. Take care.